Hollywood loves a good story, but when the cameras stop rolling, some stories are buried, not for lack of interest, but because the truth is inconvenient. Today, we're uncovering 10 real-life Hollywood deaths that weren't just tragic. They were covered up, distorted, or quietly erased. This isn't gossip. These are true stories Hollywood doesn't want you to know. This is StarShock. Let's get uncomfortable.
Bruce Lee. The legend they still can't explain.
Master of martial arts, philosopher, global icon. He made action films something people can enjoy for years to come and brought together East and West. Sadly, he died at only 32 in 1973. The cause was official cerebral edema brought on by a morphine allergy. Those that were skeptical, though, did not accept this view. Some believe his death was related to rivalry, the triads, or as part of a campaign by the U.S. government. Others think it may have resulted from feeling overly tired, working too hard, or something else. Subsequently, many years later, Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, passed away under searingly similar conditions. Both men were young. They are both on the rise. Their demise happened during filming. Coincidence? Or were they victims of a system that valued their fighting alone, rather than caring about their well-being?
Brittany Murphy. The starlet who died too sick, too soon.
She was full of character, fun to watch, and totally one of a kind. She's shown in the movies Clueless, 8 Mile, Just Married, but less than 2 years later, she was found dead in her Los Angeles house. Official cause? The main causes are pneumonia, anemia, and problems with medications. Yet, those who loved her and expert toxicologists did not accept the results. Though she'd never used drugs or had a major health concern, Simon Monjack died from the same causes just a few months after Britney Spears. Same symptoms, same home. Coincidence or cover-up? Others blame it on mold found in the house. Other people believe someone is responsible for these deaths. Not even her father believed the investigation went far enough. Even now, no one speaks openly about her death in Hollywood. Many still say the cause was not a force of nature, but carelessness.
David Carradine. A Legend's Bazaar, last scene.
Kung Fu, Kill Bill. David Carradine was famous in Hollywood until his death was discovered in a hotel room in Bangkok. Nude, bound, kept in a closet. It was quickly decided that what happened was autoerotic asphyxiation. These papers eagerly covered the case. No one in his family shared his enthusiasm. The police thought David was murdered, and everything around him seemed to be done to belittle him. Another autopsy in the U.S. found bruises that suggest the death was not from suicide. Even so, nobody bothered to investigate further. Because we'd rather end the story with some spice than admit a hard reality. That is how, at its best, David's death was misinterpreted as a joke instead of having fair justice.
River Phoenix. The death that changed Hollywood forever.
He was supposed to have a career like James Dean. River Phoenix was only young, but he had amazing talent, beauty, and depth. Yet, on Halloween, River entered the Viper Room, a club owned by Johnny Depp, and died of a drug overdose right outside. That's the common story told in movies. Look, these writers aren't supposed to do this. The River was free of debris when filming took place. He openly talked about drug abuse. Friends said the producers encouraged him to live dangerously to keep his image exciting. What's the biggest point to remember? There were celebrities in the club, people who witnessed everything. Everyone just said nothing. Not then, not now. Shutting down the machine was a way to block out her pain. River's life would serve as a warning, not a commemoration of violence.
Natalie Wood. The Mystery on the Water.
Known for her glamour, Natalie Wood died when she drowned while out on a yacht with her husband, Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken. The case was marked as an accident. It took another 30 years, in 2011, before it was investigated as a suspect death. There were bruises on her body, conflicting testimonies. The captain of the boat later confirmed that Wagner did not call for help right away. During 2018, Wagner was designated as a person of interest. Law enforcement never filed charges against him. Once more, Hollywood was quiet. Charging accusations against a famous composer like Wagner? There was nothing about that in the script.
Brandon Lee. The shot that wasn't supposed to happen.
Brandon Lee was finally able to make his own name by being cast in The Crow. Unfortunately, a prop gun seen as safe during practice opened fire and hit him when filming. What are the causes of it? During inspections of safety, the weapon was left with a real bullet tip stuck in the barrel. Some say it was an accidental tragedy. For others, it harks back to things we have seen before. Cultural legend Bruce Lee died youthfully under undetermined circumstances, with the rhyme claiming a variety of causes: cerebral edema, drug reaction, and an overheated brain. Many started to believe in conspiracy theories. Was there something that cursed the Lee family? Was it someone trying to wipe out their presence in Hollywood? But Brandon's death paused production, although it didn't last long. Shooting continued and the film was eventually issued. Nobody was ever blamed.
Heath Ledger. A performance that haunted him.
Heath arrest because he would bring darkness and sensitivity together like no other. Following The Dark Knight, rumors began to appear that the character swallowed him up. The official answer to why he died? Commonly mistaken for an overdose of painkillers, it was actually brought about by mixing sleeping tablets and anti-anxiety pills. There's one part Hollywood never talks about: why Cobain was prescribed so many medicines. Sleep evaded Heath. He couldn't hold on any longer. As his closest friends have explained, he was working nearly the entire time, handling many jobs and dealing with pneumonia while filming. There are those who say people in the industry saw he was getting worse, but didn't stop his work because what he was able to do was worth far too much. They didn't try to save him from falling. They watched. When he passed away, they used his name to advertise the box office hit.
Brad Renfro. The Forgotten Prodigy.
I don't blame press whatsoever. I can't. I definitely made it a whole lot harder, but I'm glad I got arrested.
Same month, the same year in which Ledger took place. There were no tributes made, though. None of this needs to go viral. Brad Renfro was known as a 90s prodigy. When he was 11 years old, he worked alongside two highly respected actors in The Client. Still, even though he emerged quickly, no one saw how much isolation he suffered. No handlers. I didn't have any Hollywood mentors, only contracts and confusion. He had to deal with addiction, being arrested, and depression. He died from overdosing on heroin in 2008. One more thing to know, he wasn't included in the Oscars' In Memoriam tribute. Hollywood forgot about him. Why? That's because he could no longer be sold on television. His death wasn't overstaged for a movie blockbuster. There was nothing to disturb him as he died. They allow people to forget him. Gene Seberg. Hounded to death by the FBI. Gene Seberg was a new wave darling. Blonde, beautiful, and brainy. She starred in Breathless and became a symbol of the 60s rebellion. But off-screen, she supported black civil rights groups, and the FBI hated her for it. The FBI spread false stories about her, claimed her unborn baby was from a Black Panther member, a lie that made headlines. Seberg was devastated. She went into hiding, suffered a breakdown, and was later found dead in her car. Overdose, suicide note, weeks decomposed, but no accountability. The FBI admitted years later that they targeted her. But the press, the industry, they moved on. Jean wasn't just a loss, she was a warning.
Dorothy Dandridge, Hollywood's first Black movie star, and its first scandal.
Dorothy Dandridge came before Halle Berry. The first time a Black woman got the Best Actress nomination. Stunning, talented, revolutionary. Hollywood wasn't happy with her accomplishment. She was given a leading role as Carmen Jones, but after that, they would no longer support her. Why? She was too strong for them, too desirable, would destabilize the way things work. Amy was discriminated against all the time, blocked from taking on roles, and lost her child in a custody fight. At the time she died of what was ruled an overdose, she no longer had much money and resided in a small apartment in Los Angeles. There were those who thought it was suicide. Some people think it happened by accident. Nearly everyone agrees. Hollywood left her to rot after featuring her as a symbol for change. She deserved better than just a casual mention. She should have had a chance at life.
Would turned a blind eye to, and keeps doing so now. We should also take some time to question, why do we young, talented, unprotected, and often used by the same system that profits from their downfall? But here's what ties them all together. It wasn't the fame that killed them. It was the silence around their pain, and a machine that only speaks in box office numbers.
What do all these deaths have in common?
Think to yourself about what I'm saying. River Phoenix was found dead on the sidewalk. His death happened while he was working surrounded by projects. Dorothy Dandridge was a broken woman, far from financial security, when she died. Amanda Bynes was almost stripped of her identity because of conservatorship. Moreover, Jean Seberg received harassment right from her own government. Nevertheless, the response from the studios came out. Many networks covered the incident by showing different tributes. Things happened the same way again and again. Hollywood sells sadness better than it finds ways to address it.
The psychological toll of fame.
A lot of people believe that having fame gives them power. For countless others, it feels like a prison surrounded by red tape. Research indicates that child actors are more likely to have depression and substance abuse problems than most adults. Why? They have been taught this from the beginning. Your significance equals your opportunities to perform. Take away any special attention, and there's not much remaining. Amanda Bynes turned into a meme. Britney Spears was fighting for control over her own life. Far too many people, nothing. But there's a truth Hollywood tries to hide from you. Fame is not enough to keep you safe. It's exposure.
Why the industry stays quiet.
You'd think after decades of breakdowns, suicides, and overdoses, things would change. They haven't, because change costs money, and accountability, even more. Behind every child star is a legal contract. Behind every public breakdown is a team trained to spin the narrative, and behind every lost life is a lesson the industry refuses to learn. Why? Because if they admit fault once, they'd have to admit it every time. And the system doesn't apologize. It replaces. Selena Gomez, even Taylor Swift, re-recording her work so no one else owns her. They're not just making music, they're making history by breaking cycles. And for every tragic ending we've covered in this video, there are now young stars fighting not to be next. Because today, the internet watches everything, and silence doesn't work the way it used to.